You're listening to the NCF&B podcast. Tell your friends to find us on iTunes at NCF&B podcast. And remember, the ampersand is simply shift the number 7 on your keyboard. And share our website, ncfbpodcast.com. There you'll find pictres, show notes between shows, and links to content where we've discussed on each episode. And follow us on Twitter and Instagram at NCFBpod. This show is sponsored by Food Scene. That's food-seen.com, providing professional photography, social media management, website design, and graphic design services for the food and beverage industries of North Carolina. Foodscene.com. And now, enjoy the show.
Hello, and thank you for listening to the NCF&B podcast. I am your co-host, Max Trujillo.
And I am your co-host, Matthew Weiss. And today, we are on location at the Mofu Shoppe in downtown Raleigh. And very exciting, we have a biomedical engineer from NC State and an accountant who works for PwC. So Sunny Lin of NC State fame and Miss Sophia Woo of UNC fame. To get real perspective, so you guys made your bones in the food business with the Dump Pho-King trucks and won season 6 of the food truck wars.
The Great Food Truck Race.
Food truck
On
race.
Food Network.
Yeah, on the
Season
Food
6.
Network.
Well, okay, so you have the Dumb Fucking Truck.
Yes,
That clearly was not a name for television, I assume.
correct.
So was this something between the producers and you that said, maybe try the Pho-nomenal truck? Because
Absolutely.
that's a whole lot more television friendly.
Absolutely. They're like, you guys are great. We want you on the show. You cannot come on the show with this name. We have to change it. If you don't change it, you can't come on the show. So you're like,
such potty mouths.
I mean, we just wanted to teach people the right way to say pho. That was all.
Right, it is PHO, and everyone
PHO.
says, I love pho, but
Yeah.
it's pho.
It's pho.
It's pho.
Pho.
So, and well, since we're talking about pho, what is pho? What are we when we're eating pho?
It's like a beef noodle soup.
Beef noodle soup.
It's pretty much it's a Vietnamese beef noodle soup. We always say on the truck is like it's a comfort food.
Yeah.
You know, it's hot. You can add sriracha, hoisin to it, and it's very flavorful with all the herbs you add to it, the basil, scallion, cilantro. So it's just a
It's the
overall
best hangover food.
I was gonna say hangover, or like when you're sick.
Absolutely.
You want to knock out a cold. you
It
just
cures
go
everything.
Crazy on it.
It's like we said on the Terra Vita episode that chicken noodle soup is Jewish penicillin. But
Vietnamese penicillin.
there you
right?
go. So what differentiates it, and this probably sounds like a stupid question, but pho from ramen? I mean, obviously the noodles are different, right?
Sure.
And, yeah.
Well, so there's an interesting history that
Yeah.
you can see just within pho itself, which I think is interesting when you think about like food and history and culture in general, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so much of people's first introductions, I think, into certain cultures are through food because it's a unintimidating way to do it. So pho itself happened when, the history of pho is actually not that long.
Okay.
It's not, like spaghetti and meatballs with Italians. That's been there forever. Pho came about when the French were in Vietnam, colonized. They wanted to eat beef, and the Vietnamese were left with all these beef bones at the end of it. And they're like, what do we do with this? We're gonna make a broth. And so it was street food. It was like every man's food. It was the poor man's food on the street that they were like, well, we don't want to throw this stuff away. What can we do with it?
Right.
So it's just sort of interesting that you see that history there.
It's kind of like Italian Americans creating cioppino, which was like scrap fish that no one really wanted and they had on the wharf. So they just went, well, let's just throw this with some broth, throw some fish in there. Maybe we can scrape a couple tomatoes together, and boom, we've got cioppino.
All of a sudden, it's the best thing ever. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also
It's okay.
known
It's necessary.
in like the South, they used to have this thing called the Brunswick stew,
Oh, yeah.
which is basically
Yeah.
just everything left in your fridge. You
And
just
the
throw it
joke
in a
is,
pot.
yeah, is there a squirrel in there? 'Cause
Right.
It's been known to happen.
Right.
Or maybe nutria or something.
No, but pho is also related to pot-au-feu, right? Like the French dish, which is somewhat similar.
I'm actually not
I didn't know
as
that.
familiar with
Well,
that.
the French
I
have
didn't
a
know that. Okay.
similar dish called pot-au-feu, P-O-T-A-U-F-E-U.
Huh.
So who knows if that, but more likely that was probably the influence of being in Vietnam and then taking that dish back to France versus the other way around.
Gonna have to
Actually,
Google
yeah,
that.
no, I don't.
Let's
I
just
don't
make
know.
that up. We'll add it
Yes,
to Wikipedia.
that sounds great.
There you go.
And if it's on the
No
internet,
need
it
to
must be
fact
true.
check that.
No.
No, but so how do you guys? I mean, the story goes that you were basically going to school, living with roommates, and they were cooking. They were bringing home traditional Asian recipes and just making it home. And
Yes.
And then you were picking up and soaking all that info up.
So I lived with 3 other girls at the time. It was my first job. I was living cheaply. I was living with some college girls. 2 were Vietnamese and 1 was Korean. And so just, in free time, having a little bit of extra income, we just cooked a lot. So the 2 Vietnamese girls taught me how to make Vietnamese food. The Korean girl taught me how to make Korean food. And then, growing up, I think Sunny and I both like watching our moms and our grandmothers cook, sort of just soaking all of that in. My
And
mom.
I'm sorry, what's your background?
So Sunny and I are both Taiwanese, actually.
Taiwanese, okay. What are the things that you were learning from, say, the cuisine from Korea versus Vietnamese from what you were learning, like the way you grew up?
I think Koreans usually use a lot of like chili.
Yeah.
They're like
Spice.
spicy food, whereas
Yeah.
the spice from like Southeast Asia is from like the Thai chilies. And then the other type, it's like different types of peppers that they use for spices. Chinese, China's just so big, so they
The
within
regions are so
itself, like
different.
within itself, it has so much different, cuisines within itself. Like the North has their like spicy, the spice between the North and the South is very different too. Like the South is like the numbing kind,
It's
or was
funny,
that the North? I can't
didn't
remember.
Chef Kim over at Sono, he had the same thing because he's Korean and he's doing sushi. So what's the difference between Japanese sushi and Korean sushi? He goes, Korean sushi is just better. And there's more flavor. He's like, just better. I'm like, okay, sure, why not? Just go right out on a limb.
Yeah.
But
And
maybe
I feel-
more bold flavors. Is
Yeah,
that a
and
good
then
way to
like
say
I
it?
feel like Southeast also use fish sauce and like that shrimp paste, that like a different type of umami flavor than like Chinese. I know like my parents never really used fish sauce growing up, but we did use shrimp paste like in cooking.
Okay.
So it's just very different. Like just those are the micro
the
differences,
fundamental
between.
differences.
Right.
Yeah.
But also with China, and I don't think that we realize this as much, but China is obviously an empire that has taken on so many different cultural countries, for lack of a better word, that had an own culture into themselves.
Yeah.
So even defining just a Chinese culture
Yeah.
is basically not really
Yeah.
existent.
Exactly.
But away from food for a second, so you guys went to school in Durham together and became friends there, right?
And we went to high school together. It was a residential high school.
Okay.
And we were
Were
really.
you guys like the only Taiwanese girls in the class?
No,
Probably
definitely
not.
not.
Okay.
It was a very diverse school.
It was,
It was a very it was a residential, because they pulled people from all over North Carolina
All 100 counties.
based on like
Oh.
and then I think they populated the school based on what was in North Carolina, what represented North Carolina, like from each different county, from the race, I think, from the gender as well. So it wanted to represent North
They were
Carolina.
like decidedly trying to create a melting pot.
Diversity.
/
Pretty
high
much,
school, yeah.
right,
Okay.
absolutely.
And I
And
think
you
that-
have to have some sort of actual grades to get in?
Yeah, you had
You
to
apply.
apply.
Just Asian.
Asian
Female
demographic.
Asian. Check.
But you're Asian, you're in.
I would say that those demographic points have gotten us on. I feel like that's why we got onto a lot of the.
Oh, we joke about this all the
Show.
time, that it's, especially in this industry, you gotta use what you have, and it's a privilege, and it's our privilege that we got to run a food truck named the Dump Truck.
Yeah.
Without any repercussions, because we're petite Asian girls, and no one, cared. Everyone thought it was funny. It wasn't, churches didn't have usually a problem with us coming. Elementary schools were like,
You do need to work your angle
Yeah.
however you can, because
such
No
a
one's just giving it
strange
away.
part, of what we do now. And so, I mean, like I said, we joke that that's why we got cast on the show.
Yeah.
Because they wanted an all-girl team.
Would
They even
fit the
asked,
minority
yeah, they
card.
even asked, like, hey, it's the two of you guys, can you bring another Asian girl? And we're like, really? Like,
You brought a white girl, I
Yeah.
think.
we did.
We
They were
did.
like, well,
Diversity
it has to be
inside.
story, so she has to fit in your story somehow. We're like, well, we know her from high school, we're best friends, that kind of thing.
They're like, next. Here's your new friend. She comes from Somalia. Yeah, but no. So with your third friend, and what's her name? I'm sorry.
Becca.
Becca. So she was a part of the whole season. Let's get into the season because now you've been cast for whatever reasons. I think maybe there was some talent as well. Let's not short side you. I'm thinking that people enjoy the food that you have because it's proof. I mean, I'll go out and say it. I love your food. It's good. I've already had it a few times. But anyhow, so you're on the show. I believe episode 1, your truck fails, the engine fails. So you've got to rent a whole new truck. Is that just mind-boggling now because everything is like a mise en place, nothing's the same? Or were you able to just pick right up?
Honey, you tell the story.
So before we even got on the show, our first year of business owning on the truck was the worst. It was terrible. It was. I never been beaten down. Well, that's not true. Opening the restaurant, we've been beaten down just as much. But before that, I was never beaten down that much. Like our engine blew up the first time. Going down 147. No, what is that? Durham?
Yep,
Yeah.
147.
Yeah, Durham 147, going off
13B.
of Roxborough, and we
Oh,
were
yeah, right, going into downtown.
Yeah, going into downtown. There's a dip and there's a light at the bottom, and thank God it was. So our engine gave out when I was exiting the ramp, and
I'm thinking this is karma because you called it the dumb fucking truck.
yeah.
She was not happy with
this
that.
super awesome truck. Everybody's still here
I
today.
agree. We think she has a life in her. Like
She's
she
a diva.
knows. She's a diva.
Watch Christine by Stephen King if you've never seen the movie. It's same
So
concept.
it's an old diesel truck. So when the engine shuts off, like my brake assist doesn't work.
Yeah.
So I can't, like, unless you're like super strong, like I couldn't step on the brake hard enough to stop it. So we were going down a hill, and it was green light, thank God. So people were going up the hill. So we go up the hill onto Roxborough, I think, which is a one-way street. And then I can't stop, and then there was a red light, and then we were about to hit like 3 cars in front of us. So I go onto the
Curb.
onto the grass. I miss a bush. Well, I hit the
Clip
bush.
the bush.
I missed
You
the
missed the
fire
sign
hydrant
and the fire hydrant, yeah.
and the telephone pole.
Tell me there was a dog running by. at the same
No,
time.
I didn't kill anybody.
Okay.
I was just like, I was like, if I'm going to kill anybody, it's going to be ourselves, not anybody else. So we dipped our nose into a one-way traffic.
And finally
And
stopped.
then finally stopped. So the point of that story is we've had a lot of trauma leading up.
So, but the truck stopped,
The
and then
truck-
you're like
and then we
freaked
were
out,
okay.
and then you're
right,
okay.
right.
And then after that, like we've had so many times, like the truck has broken down onto like on the way to events, and we just had to get towed.
Yep.
So we've kind of been
We had
trained.
a little experience with
Now
that.
you're almost
moment.
numb to it.
Right.
Yeah.
So what
when we-
happened on the show?
Yeah. So when we were on national television,
It's
we
like,
were like, all right. The next step was to like, all right, got a tow truck. All right, we need to keep going on. We need to still make money. Let's keep going.
What's funny is we tied up the lines of a tow truck company because Sunny and I called them at the same time. They're like, I think someone just called.
There's another petite Asian.
Yeah, pretty much like.
I know in this town we don't have a lot.
She was like, no. The lady was like, I already told you we don't tow fleet trucks. I was like,
you
I didn't
talked to my
call.
business partner.
I was like, oh, Sophia must have called earlier. Okay, I got it.
So did the Food Network just have trucks hanging around? Like, how did you get the next truck?
So because we were still so close, well, okay, so this goes back to the fact that we were the dumb fucking truck, and they're like, you can't be that on the show. So they said, okay, you're gonna need to change your name, but we will rewrap your truck with whatever name you pick. So we went with Pho-nomenal Dumpling Truck, back and forth. Our truck went out there and they rewrapped our truck. It's just like a big sticker that goes
Sure,
on our
right.
truck, right? So when we wrote down the first episode and got a new truck, they just took that new truck back to the same place that had wrapped our truck because they already had our logo and everything done, and
Okay.
they just rewrapped
And
it
this is
again.
in California, so they have food trucks for rent.
Yeah.
Like
Oh.
people do that out
Okay.
there. So listen,
I still don't understand how a biomedical engineer and an accountant who is working for PwC say, yeah, let's get together and make a food truck and do a business out of this.
So I always joke that I had like a full-on quarter-life crisis.
Okay.
Didn't want to do what I was doing anymore. did not have any other skills to speak of except, well, people liked the dumplings I was making.
Right.
And
Don't
then
people in PwC go through that like pretty much on a weekly basis?
I think it's mostly during busy season
He's close
happens.
to someone that works there too.
Yeah.
yes.
My wife works for PwC. Not to talk bad about PwC.
I was going to say
great
it's
firm,
fantastic firm.
but I know
love
it's very
the people.
competitive. So you had a quarter life crisis.
I had a quarter life crisis. Did not know what else to do with my life. I'd sort of already had a crisis before that when I decided I didn't want to go to med school and decided to do the business school and the accounting thing to begin with. So this is just an ongoing thing for me, apparently. And Sunny says that I tricked her into it.
Yeah.
I asked every person I knew.
Well, I'm always like a yes person. Like
Yeah.
if you ask me to do anything, I'm like, if I think it's possible, I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go do it. Why not? My philosophy in life is why not. So,
Remove the barrier.
yeah, let's go try it. And I never really. I think I was always on this like social entrepreneurship thing, and then I was like, well, I need to get the entrepreneurship part. So I was like, why not? Let's do it.
But who said, like, you were cooking at the time, you have a background, your family seems like they were cooking a lot.
Yeah.
But who says to the other one, yeah, well, so you say to her, let's do a food truck?
I said, I've got this ridiculous name for a food truck. Let's do it. And Sunny was like,
I was like, how hard could it be?
okay.
That's great.
She was like the one person crazy enough to say yes.
So the inspiration for the whole concept, even now as we speak, was off
The
of
name.
the Dumb Fucking Truck,
Yeah.
which no longer exists because
I
of
know.
all of the rigmarole you had to deal with.
Well, so the LLC is still Dump Fucking Truck LLC. So your credit card still gets charged.
Oh, okay.
Dump Fucking Truck.
We always said before we went on the show, we were like, well, if we don't win the show, we'll still be the Dump Fucking Truck.
Right.
But if we
Just
win,
We'll go back to the name.
but
yeah.
if we win, we'll be the Phenomenal Dumpling. I feel like we don't have a choice and then we won.
I was not expecting to win. It was just, let's get to the next week. 42 more minutes on TV. That's all I want. 42 more minutes of free advertising.
That must have
Seriously.
just been exhilarating, though. I mean, just kind of dumbfounded and also excited. So you won $50,000, right?
Yes.
That's the prize,
the
which
prize.
you're not going to be able to retire off of that money.
Nope.
But that's definitely a nice push
Hey,
forward
nice day.
to give you a chance to go do something else. Now, you also could have just opened up another truck, or you could have just gone back and done whatever you'd like, but you decided that you wanted to do a brick and mortar establishment. Even walking through that whole process, and you have a silly video on your website as well, going through the whole process of getting that started. And I remember even just knowing you and watching it via social media of you guys taking down this whole place. It used to be a car dealership, I think, at one
Car
point.
dealership.
Hence why you've got all the big windows in the front,
Yeah.
which is excellent for a restaurant. But how does that then, you start making this jump, I mean, $50,000 is really just enough to maybe get some tables and chairs in
Right.
this place, and
Yeah.
then you're already back at zero. So how did you capitalize and continue to push forward to then open up the Mofu Shop?
I think Sunny and I are both stubborn and strong-headed, and when we get an idea in our heads, there's no stopping us. We will do whatever it takes to get there. And we're very different people, but we have strengths that sort of fill the other person's
Yeah.
holes, so
Yeah.
to speak, gaps.
Your strengths are highlighted, or your weaknesses are highlighted by your strengths, and
Right,
vice versa.
right.
Matt's a smart one. I'm a pretty one. We all know.
Pretty much.
So
Not to laugh at that. It's just, it's funny because it's true, right?
we partnered up with Triangle Wine Company because these guys are awesome. They offer weekly wine tasting events, a wide range of wine and beers from around the world, and an easy online store to find the wines that you'd like. They also offer pickup, local delivery, and shipping. We even set up a promo code NCFB so you can receive 10% off all future purchases.
Go to trianglewineco.com or one of their 3 locations, and for $99, pick up the NCFNB 6-pack, which includes 3 white wines, 3 red wines, and we threw an official NCFNB hat in the bag.
So once again, buy your wine online or in-store at the Triangle Wine Company and use our promo code NCFB during checkout to receive 10% off your future wine and beer purchases. Go to trianglewineco.com or click the top of our website at ncfbpodcast.com. Okay, but you are looking around now. You're both essentially
Right.
in Durham, but we're not in Durham. We're in downtown Raleigh. This is where this restaurant's located. Was that strategic?
So we went to
that-
high school in Durham, but I
Okay.
think ever since the truck started, our community has really been in Raleigh. That's where we started. That's where we sort of started to build our network. All
Yeah.
the breweries around, all the people around, everyone that we visited, the people in the community and the festivals and
Yeah.
all the things happening in Raleigh. We always joke that Raleigh's like our little big city where you can walk down the street and know somebody, but at the same time, like there's always something big happening, and it's dynamic and it's on that like onward forward trajectory.
Yeah. Well, and there's also you had a built-in clientele now, or at
did.
least you have some heat from the television show and the success. I mean, there's curiosity. Everybody, at the very least, is going to be very curious to want to eat there after watching you on TV. So there's at least a little bit of confidence. I would feel like you knew, okay, we're going to open and we're at least going to have some buzz around it, which is much more than what a lot of people could say.
Oh, sure.
But
We were very fortunate to have that buzz in the beginning. I mean, not a lot of people, yeah, like you said, like, you know, not everybody gets to open up and then people kind of know your name already.
Yeah.
But that was also because we spent the last 3 years doing what we had been doing on the food truck. I mean, even before we were on the show, I feel like we've started to build a following just, you know, very organically. And so this is just, and it was also, why not? It was like, I said yes. I just keep saying yes. She just asked me, was like, do we want a restaurant? I was like, yeah, sure,
Yeah.
why not? Let's do it.
Yeah, of course.
Well, you even said it that you're in the jump off and hope there's a net later.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I definitely am.
Yeah.
I mean, and I definitely learned a lot of mistakes that way too. Like, I
Sure.
definitely fall on my ass a couple of times, you know. But I mean, but I feel like there's no other way to learn for
Yeah.
me. For me, she can look at something and figure it out from where she's standing. I'm not that way. I just have to experience it first. So.
Sure, and then you
I
figure
feel
out.
that.
Yeah, oh, totally that way. So another thing about opening up a brick and mortar place, you guys decided to hire a chef here, as opposed to doing the cooking yourself, which you were on the food truck mostly.
Right,
Yeah. So
right.
what was the thinking behind that?
Well, so, I mean, you know, all the joking aside about us being like cute Asian girls who, you know, opened a food truck, that's why we got the attention in the first place. But I think why we stuck around and why we did so well in the 3 years that the food truck was running, because our food was good. You know, we appreciate good food. Good food doesn't have to be super fancy, hoity-toity, you know, fantastic all the time. It can be something that is nostalgic. It can
Yeah.
be something that just, you know, hits a certain note with you at certain times. You know, there's certain things that I want to eat when I'm sad. There's certain things I want to eat when I'm happy. There's certain things that, like, I'm scared to try but want to. So I think that Sunny and I wanted to explore that a little bit more within the restaurant setting. But we had also not been in the food industry before. We'd only ever been doing the food truck.
Right,
And so
yeah.
I think it was, you know, like Sunny says, like, yes, let's go. And I'm like, there's a little hole in the net. Maybe we should hire a chef to help us run like a
Which is-
full service restaurant.
Which is very self-aware, and I appreciate that you are self-aware to understand that scaling to a certain level is a whole different beast. And you know, just because you win something or money gets thrown in your lap or whatever may happen, might not necessarily mean you're going to have success in the next endeavor. So you were smart, but you also kept the guy, or you kept the team that's running your kitchen even closely tied to food trucks originally, correct?
We did.
So Chef Aaron Chaman once ran the Soul Tacos,
Yes.
which was more Mexican food, tacos, of course, street food,
Fresh
things
tortillas,
like that.
tacos, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
But you have this great local kind of feel too by bringing Chef Shaman into the whole thing and working there. I think even Matt Griner is part of the
Yeah,
Jesse
he
Act.
is.
And
Yes, he
Griner's was also over there at Vivace. He was at Crawford and Son for a while too.
He was. He was at Coquette.
At Coquette. I mean, there's this great network right there, and he's a good guy. So you have two beasts in the kitchen. Those
do.
guys can put it down, both because of the restaurant experience and the food truck experience. So what's that collaboration like then at this point with the menu?
I feel like we learn something every day from these two, like Matt and Shaman. They throw out French words. I'm like, huh?
I don't know what that is.
What is that?
We'll have to ask them about
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like Shaman's definitely he knows this kitchen. He's been in this industry for so long, so he knows how to run. He knows how to manage people. He knows the logistics. He knows how to make it a successful, and smooth machine.
Right.
Matt is his like creative mind is just something to admire every single day. He'll cook something up. I'm like, holy crap! Didn't realize you can make that in this kitchen. So. I mean, the two teams together is great, but our influence is, it's nature versus nurture. This is definitely nature. They're part of our, surroundings now. But nurture from our family, we've just learned so much from being in Taiwan, being in China, traveling, and we have all these inspirations from our, like, childhood that we bring to the table. So it ends up being a really great collaboration. Mm-hmm. Even with the lunch menu, which is pretty new, we had it was really easy. It was like a 30-minute meeting where we were like, we should do this. We should do a gochujang, like Parmesan, like chicken parm sandwich or something like that.
Yeah.
The chicken salad, that was really good. Let's put that on a sandwich. So yeah, we do sit down and talk about it. And mainly Shaman just thinks of something that he wants to put on the menu, and then we're like, oh, what about this? And then we all take, advice pretty well and criticism pretty well. Right. So,
but in terms of bringing your guys' background into it, you had evoked a very emotional sense that attaches to food. So, do you come in and say, oh, I remember I used to have this dish and it had flavors of this and this, and then Shaman will kind of be like, oh, I can make that.
Absolutely. I think, and it goes both ways, that sometimes we have sort of an idea that he'll bring into focus for us a little bit, or it's the other way around. He'll start with something and we'll bring it into focus or add a little Asian influence to it, or, oh, that's sort of similar to something that we have in Taiwan, like what if we do this with it?
That's like Max is like my shaman.
Yeah.
I have an idea. Bring it into focus.
Just kind of
or vice versa.
Yeah. But that's the teamwork aspect.
Yeah.
Which is always great. And then to complete, or at least to add to the rest of this whole puzzle, the beverage aspect of your restaurant is still integrated into the cuisine. And you brought in Matt Kenner of Milk Bar. Is that right? So he's running the beverage program, kind of organizing cocktail programs and all that, and then that evolves into the system?
I think more mentoring, I would say.
Okay.
He's been fantastic in sort of giving us the reins and letting us drive as much as we want with the beverage program. And I think Sunny actually runs the beverage program more than anyone here.
Well, I say my bartenders do. Because our culture here, it's always been like a team culture. It was like, I have been in this industry probably. Some of my bartenders have been in the industry longer than I have, so they have much more knowledge than I do, and I just trust them. And it's so when they play with stuff, it's like bringing stuff into focus. So I let them play with whatever they want. I give them the tools to do it, and then I get to pick which one to see what fits in our vision and what fits in our culture here. Yeah. So
it's very much like we are faking it and we know it. So we have good people. We surround ourselves with good people.
And smart
Sunny,
people.
Sunny and I always say we are our staff and our people's greatest cheerleaders. Yeah. And we know that we have gaps in what we can do and in the food industry, and we're not at all, know-it-alls about it.
I appreciate that more than most. And in fact, when Matt and I first started the podcast, episode 2 or 3, I forget now, Matt interviewed me and then I interviewed him on the next one, however. And the tagline of my episode was, Max lies his way to the I feel like most of the way you're going to get a chance is, fake it until you make it. Mm-hmm. The self-fulfilling prophecy, and then you learn. I mean, hell, we've learned just in this podcast about doing certain elements. We're never going to do that again. Oh, we should do more of this or whatever it might be. Yeah. But it's just getting it done and having the reps.
Absolutely.
And feeling that. And I think the restaurant industry is probably one of the best examples of that, because you're not just cooking one night. You're cooking every night. Mm-hmm. And you're going to learn. You're going to evolve. And hopefully your best days weren't behind you when you cook. They should always be in front of you, because you become better at what you do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I wonder about that, because I feel like for Sunny, for you, that resonates a lot, like the way that you said, jump in and then figure it out as you're going in. But Sophia, you're more of like being from the accountant background, and I know having that PwC training, Type A, you have to see things 3 steps ahead and plan and have
what they call a passive, or what is it? A defensive pessimist.
Defensive
a defensive pessimist.
That's like a double negative. Does that equal a positive?
Well, it means that when I see everything in the worst case scenario possible.
Right.
I prepare for the worst case scenario. Actually, Tinder and Bumble.
I was going to say Tinder, but
you have to pay for Match. I don't have that kind of money. We opened a restaurant. But if you prepare for everything, worst case scenario, you're pleasantly surprised when it doesn't turn out so badly.
Yeah. So, but that just like kind of has my mind turning, because like we all know that 70% of restaurants or maybe more fail.
Absolutely.
And you guys had a good thing going with the food truck. You got a little nut to start whatever business, or to maybe do 2 or 3 food trucks, and there's got to be like some masochist in you that said, let's start a brick and mortar business, restaurant.
I blame that on her. Sunny has taught me how to say yes over the years.
I
think that
she's the one that said you convinced her, though.
Well, I convinced her with the food truck, but I think in life, Sunny has convinced me to say yes, and I always thank her for that.
Okay.
That, I have had so many things in my life right now that I'm so grateful for that are because I have learned to say yes now.
Yeah. That is great, but I guess I'm wondering, and for Sunny's contemplating that, so you'll get.
Sunny doesn't do well with
She's like, so wait, when this business doesn't work out, she's gonna blame me.
I'm
the pho guy. Yeah. She's like, thanks a lot.
I'm the one that pho.
Yeah.
No, but seriously, like for the person who wants to get into the restaurant business, and you have all this negative energy being thrown away, like don't do it, you're never gonna make any money on it. Like, how does somebody look at that and said, no, I am going to be different and we are going to be successful? Obviously, you have the built-in success of the Food Network and people knowing you, but what are some of the other differentiating factors that you can actually plan for and say, well, we are going to be successful because our business plan is this, this, and that? Like,
well, first of all, we never had a business plan,
okay.
which, may not be.
So risque of you.
I know, it's terrible. I wouldn't suggest that, but we never did. I mean, like I said, it was saying yes. Sunny and I are both very stubborn. It was, I think because we have no experience in the industry, we came into it knowing, hey, we're gonna have to work our asses off to figure this out. And it was every single day, like, let's hustle, let's hustle, let's hustle. And the show taught us that, right? Like, we came back from the show and we were like, man, think of all the things that we did on the show that we don't do on a normal basis to get people to the truck. We should be doing this every single day. So it was all about, like, let's be extra prepared. Let's work extra hard.
What did you do every day to get people to the truck, like back in the day when you were nobody?
It was a lot of social media.
A lot of social
Well, yeah, if you've ever
media.
watched the movie Chef, all you have to do is just tweet out, we're going to be at
Right, and then
Albuquerque.
you have hundreds of people
No.
show
There's a huge
up.
line. That's what always happens.
That's happened like once ever.
Especially like if your
True,
12-year-old
the
son
show.
does it
Right.
on the show as well. Oh yeah, he just takes care of the social media. It's easy.
Well, it was our marketing. We were very specific about what we wanted to portray in our marketing. The fact that, we were like, well, we've got a crazy name for the truck. Let's not be crazy about certain other things.
Sure. Well, one thing that I would say that I've gathered and picked up from both being a diner here and then just knowing you in general is your hospitality really comes through. It shines. That's something you can't business plan for, that you also can't hold tangibly, is that you and your personality are going to shine through at some point, and hopefully that's infectious to your team and to your clientele. I have to say this, and you're going to kill me when I bring this up, but I love this. I was
This is a surprise to me.
So I was looking through, I was researching you guys, and I never do this, but as a joke, I checked your Yelp reviews. And I loved this one. A Yelp reviewer, Robbie P., described you. Mofu scores a Ryan Gosling on ambiance.
I did see that.
And a Nicolas Cage on food and service, 2 stars. Yeah. Again, why Yelp is so fantastic and why we should continue to listen to what Robbie P. and other people have to say.
Yeah.
We had one girl say on our food truck Yelp, which I don't know if you've checked that out. You should go check it out. She goes, I would rather watch the 2 girls 1 cup video than eat.
Whoa.
And I was like, did not say anything about our food ever. That was just the only comment that she left.
Go to our website, click on 2 Girls, 1 Cup. I'm just kidding.
I do take pride. We do take pride on our culture here internally within like our team. Even on the food truck, we've always had it as a family, family like lifestyle. We always cared about each other, took care of one another, and it really translated here. And I really hope that our staff, like, you know, feels that. And then they shown us, like, they all wrote us, like, thank you cards one day because our general manager made them do it. But
well, your general manager got
that. I know. But, like, it was really sweet because, and then everybody's, you know, always, like, the one reoccurring theme is that we do genuinely care about them.
Yeah.
And then I think that from top down, and if we genuinely care about our customers, they genuinely care about you guys, you know, the customers as well. So I do take, if there's one thing that I do take pride in, it is that we have a family culture here. And when we see each other out in the streets, we actually want to talk to each other and hang out instead of like, okay, you go on your side of the street.
Yeah, I'll see you at work.
Yeah, I'll see you at work, so.
Now that you've went from school to a food truck to television to now running a restaurant, is running a restaurant everything you always had never dreamed of being?
No.
I had no idea what it was going to be like. It just,
You had no idea what this was
I
gonna
pulled
be
a Sunny, I just jumped and assumed a net would appear.
There you go.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it's all day long, right? I mean, it's just,
It
it's
is all day
constant,
long,
and
yeah.
it's always, every day brings, you know, a whole bunch of new problems and things like that.
But then when you get those great Yelp reviews,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
worth everything.
It's worth everything. The Nicolas Cage.
style, which, you know, one could say that's kind of a good thing, right?
Ryan, I mean, he's
Nick
one of the
Cage
best
is
actors.
great,
Yeah.
so yeah.
So, knowing all this, I mean, kind of cliche question, but would you do it all again?
I don't know.
I think I would.
So there's the way I see. So I think there's joy and there's a lot of things to be, you know, learned through this process.
Yeah.
And I've learned so much through this process. Would I open another restaurant right now? If you ask me right now, I'd probably say no.
Yeah.
To be fair, we also said I'm never doing reality TV again right after the show. And then we did say yes to it again, or at least say yes to trying out to it again. So it's, you know,
It gets a little
I think
addictive, right?
It does.
We had
craziness of it.
Grayson Schmitz of Top Chef fame, and the first time she was on it, it went well for her. She went far. I think she was like down to the 4th contestant. She just didn't make the final, but she arguably went really far. So she did it again, and that was kind of a disaster. And those are her words, not mine. But it didn't go well for her, and she went, "Yeah, probably should have just stopped first season and
Wow,
just kept it there." But it does get a little addictive, and it's fun
It
at
does,
some point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the same thing with the restaurant. I think that we got, or at least I shouldn't speak for Sunny, that I got a little addicted, or I am a little bit addicted to the constant craziness and little moments of joy and little moments of insanity that does come in this industry, and having a restaurant that we didn't know anything about when we started. So
Yeah, so
yeah.
touch on that for a second, because we talked a lot about like the hard work and everything, and the sweat and the, you know, the blood and sweat and tears that go into it. But what are some of the little wins? Is it looking at the numbers at the end of a really good night and like, wow, we did this much in sales,
Not at
or
all.
is it somebody you know giving
Yeah.
you that validation and be like, I've never had food like this? What are some of those? And if you have specific
See, the food
examples?
truck, yeah, the numbers were always what got me high. Like, those were, like, I'm like, where we crushed it on the food truck, I absolutely just had the biggest high.
Yeah.
I think here now, it's the little ones,
the little
whereas,
things,
like,
yeah.
you connect with the staff and,
Yeah.
you know.
Hearing on the
Human
NCFME
beings.
podcast.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that one, main one.
I think the first time getting to pay our staff for me was a really big moment. It fell right around the time of July 4th.
Okay.
And I had that moment of like, well, yeah, this is kind of the American dream, isn't it? Like,
Yeah, that's
absolutely. I also love when someone comes up to the truck or to the restaurant and says, I've never had a dumpling before. I'm like, this is gonna be fun. Like,
That's awesome.
hold our hand, we're gonna go on this journey together.
Well, thank you so much. Matt, do you have anything else?
Well, I just want to say it's been awesome to learn about your culture, to learn about your enthusiasm, your say yes attitude, and how it translates to the restaurant. So come to Mofu Shop, look for the Pho-nomenal dumpling truck, and eat and drink in Maryland.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the NC F&B podcast. And if you've stuck with us this long, review us on iTunes, and remember, 5 stars are encouraged.